And Micah. All right, in five, four, three, two, one. Welcome to the Unspeakable Truth. I'm one of your hosts, Dusty, along with my co-hosts, Jen and Erica. Ladies, how are you doing today?
Doing fabulous. How are you?
Oh, magnificent. Jen, how are you?
I am doing great, thank you.
Outstanding, guys. We had to bring him back. Last episode with Micah Dank was so dank that we had to bring him back to talk the Book of Enoch. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Micah Dank. How you doing today, Micah?
I'm good, man. Thanks for finally getting this up.
Yep. Awesome.
Right on. So, man, we're here today to talk about the Book of Enoch. We've all looked over it. I read like 15 chapters of it last night, man. There's some deep shit in there, for real.
Yeah, there
There's
is.
some really deep stuff talking about like it sounds like he's talking about aliens and shit. Like one of them he was talking about a man like engulfed in fire that was the almighty one that no one could get close to. It was fucking bizarre. So
Yeah.
so go ahead, man. Start and break down the Book of Eli for us, and just kind of tell us what link it to the astrology like you did.
You mean Enoch?
Enoch,
Yeah.
that's Eli, Book of Eli. Denzel Washington.
That's a good book, though.
It's a good movie. I'm gonna go through the
Yes.
12 signs for your listeners real quick.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
So the first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is the man with the water feature. Then Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water. Then Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day, 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator, and back on its way up to its height in the summer solstice. In Christianity, the passing over is changed and called the resurrection of God's Son. So it's two meanings, but it's the same meaning. It's why the Jews smear the lamb's blood on the door in Exodus when God passes over the Egyptian houses and smites the firstborn son. They put the lamb's blood over the door because they're the people of Aries and they want God to know that. It's why the Jews have the lamb bone on the Passover plate. It's called the shank bone. It's why they blow the ram's horn to the sky because they're the people of Aries. Then Taurus is the bull. And when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull so that you could plant the seeds and harvest in Virgo and Libra, which I'll get back to in a sec. Then Gemini is the twins. That's Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. That's the story of Achilles. Then Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature, which has June 21st in it. June 21st is the summer solstice. The sun is at its height. And on June 21st, what happens is the sun is at its height, and then for 3 days after, it stays at that height. So it walks sideways, just like the crab. Then on June 25th, it drops a degree, and then it continues to drop a degree every single day until it hits December 21st, which is the winter solstice, which is the lowest day of the year. It's the coldest day of the year. It's the longest night of the year. It's the winter solstice. So the sun is dead, and then it's dead for another 3 days, and then on December 25th it rises. So two things: December 25th, that's the rising of, that's the resurrection, and for 3 days it's dead. So God's Son is dead for 3 days. Then Leo is the sun. It's the king of the jungle. That's what the lion is, and the ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. Next is Virgo it's the woman holding the wheat stalk. So you plant in Taurus, and then the virgins cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. Then Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. And the reason it's justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. The Jews always celebrate the new year around the fall equinox. And interestingly enough, for those who don't know this, Libra is the judgment. That's what it is. It's the judge. It's the just one. It's the scales. It's the balance. It's the judgment. So that's why the Jews have something called Yom Kippur, which is 8 days after Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, which is called the Day of Atonement. They go to temple, they fast all day, and they pray that God keeps them in the book of life for the next year instead of not. And Libra is also wine season. So you plant for the grapes in Taurus, and then you press the wine in Libra. So you have Virgo, which is the bread, and Libra, which is the wine. Then Scorpio is the scorpion, and he's the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. That's why it's called the betrayal. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. Because Jesus is the sun, and Judas is Scorpio. Each one of the 12 disciples are one of the zodiac signs. I've already told you that Judas is Scorpio. He's the betrayer. I'm not going to get into the 12 zodiac signs as far as the disciples go, but believe you me, they're in there. In Da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper, you see that there's 4 groups of 3 that has to do with the seasons. One of the pictures, one of the men is pointing to the woman's Adam's apple to show she's a woman. She's a Virgo. There's another one whose arms are out like this, okay, because he's representing the scales. Then Sagittarius. So the sun is judged in Libra and betrayed in Scorpio. And finally in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. And then finally in Capricorn, you have the goat. And those are the 12 signs. Do you guys have any questions on that?
We don't, man. We don't. Makes a lot of sense.
I think we went over this last time too, right? The only reason I'm going over this right now is because you need this foundation in order to understand the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is a crazy book. It's actually still in the Ethiopian Bible. I don't know if you knew that. It's still in the Ethiopian Bible. The Ethiopians are interesting too because their new year is on 9/11. That's why that's such a significant day. And not only is it 9/11, but they have 13 months in their calendar. They have 12 months of 30 days and 1 month of 5 days in their calendar. So if we start with the Book of Enoch, okay, the Book of Enoch is a crazy book, but it's also just an astrology book. Okay, any of these gospels or anything, I could do what I'm about to do with this book, what I've done with Matthew, what I've done with the previous ones. I could do this with any of them. So in chapter 2, it says 2:1. Observe ye everything that takes place in the heaven, how they do not change their orbits, and the luminaries which are in the heaven, how they all rise and set in order, each in its season, and transgress not against their appointed order. So they're just talking about the stars right there. That's all it is. And then you were talking about the Watchers before and like what they do, right? Here you go. Chapter 8, 8.2. Semjaza taught enchantments. Amoros, the resolving of enchantments. Barakiel taught astrology. Kokabel taught the constellations. Ezekiel taught the knowledge of the clouds. Sariel taught the course of the moon. So they're basically telling you that they all teach that. And notice that almost all of them end in L, E-L. It's a common ending. You have Michael, Michelle, Rachel, Michael, Rochelle. You have a million names that end in L. El was the name of the god in the ancient times. The gods were Isis, Ra, and El in the Egyptian times. And when you put that together, that's where you get Israel from.
That's interesting. So my question about the Watchers is, God stated, so in the book of Noah, they go through the Watchers and then they list out, like you just said, what each Watcher taught. Because the ones that you listed, there were 200 total fallen angels, but there was a handful of their leaders, and they were called the leaders, chiefs of 10, right? Okay, so what God said was that they were wrong, that they taught sin because the Watchers laid with the women of men, and produced giants, and they taught them all these things. Like Kokabel taught of the constellations, and Barakiel taught of the earth signs. So if the constellations and astrology and the knowledge of roots and plants and trees and metals and jewels, those are called eternal secrets. So why was it, if we're supposed to know all this stuff, why were they punished for doing so? because they weren't just punished for laying with the women and having these giants who turned into cannibals and who brought war into the land, but they were also punished for teaching these things to men. Why didn't God want us to know this stuff?
Well, you could ask the same question in the book of Genesis, where there's a tree with knowledge,
Right.
and you're not supposed to eat from it.
Right.
You know, you weren't supposed to have any knowledge. You weren't supposed to have any knowledge whatsoever.
Right.
And then clearly, you know, metaphorically, she ate from the tree, and then they got banned. There's an interesting book that spawns from this called the Book of Raziel. Raziel was an angel, and what Raziel supposedly did was he came down to earth to teach Adam and Eve how to live outside of paradise. Okay? And there's an awesome book that was that came out called The Revolt of the Angels by Anatole France. It was actually banned by the Catholic Church. It came out in the 1900s. And or the 1800s, I should say. And what it was it was talking about Satan's rebellion, because he wanted to come down, or he wanted to take over. They were trying to fight God, and they were trying to take over the kingdom. And then when he came down here, the idea was, the original story was that he was here to help man. And then that was basically perverted. But basically the idea is the Book of Enoch was removed from the Bible in 1684, along with 14 other texts, like the Book of Thomas and such. The reason that it was done was because the Bible and all the stories are encoded astrology. Whereas in the Book of Enoch, they openly talk about astrology. And you can't have that because this was supposed to be a secret.
Yeah.
So although
I noticed that when I was reading it last night. They talked about astrology, and he talked about magic and all kinds of other stuff that you don't hear about in the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it had to be removed, because it was giving people too much knowledge. If I go to chapter 14:11, listen to this. Its ceiling was like the path of the stars and the lightnings, and between them was a fiery cherubim, and the heaven was clear as water. Okay, so that this could mean that the sign Aquarius or Pisces, as they are the signs that contain water. Another thing that gives credence to it, that they're basically talking about Aquarius, is that in 14:13 he says, "And I entered that house, and it was hot as fire and cold as ice." So the sun has entered either Aquarius and Pisces. Why? Because aside from the clear as water comment, and the water signs are Pisces or Aquarius, the man with the water pitcher, or Pisces, the two fish in the water, as those are the winter months. Okay, the sun is both hot, and because it's in the middle of winter, it's cold as ice. Okay, now 14:15 says, "And I beheld a vision, and lo, there was a second house greater than the former, and the entire portal stood open before me. And it was built of flames of fire. And in every respect it so excelled in splendor and magnificence and extent that I cannot describe to you its splendor and extent. And its floor was of fire, and above it were lightnings and the paths of the stars. And its ceiling was also flaming fire. And I looked and saw, therefore, a lofty throne. Its appearance was as a crystal, and the wheels thereof as the shining sun." So they mentioned the sun there. So the sun is in his kingdom, because remember I said Leo, the sun is in his kingdom in Leo. So that passage, when you decode it with astrology, is just talking about Leo. It's the dead of summer. And also, remember before we were trying to figure out if it was Aquarius or Pisces for the previous one? Now we know that they were talking about Aquarius, because they were talking about Aquarius, and then the very next passage talks about Leo. Those are opposing signs in the zodiac. So in the zodiac, what they do when you decode these stories is you're either usually talking about the neighboring sign, which you're Taurus, right, Jen?
Yes.
Yeah, so your neighboring signs are Aries to the left and Gemini to the right. Okay? But your cross sign, okay, is Scorpio.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So basically, when you're talking astrology and you're talking astrology in the Bible, they're always talking about either their next sign over or their cross sign. So that's how you know that was the case. So if I read you 17:2, you could see another mention right here. This is all this is, like I did last time. All this is just astrology. And they brought me to the place of darkness and to a mountain, the point of whose summit reached to heaven. They're talking about the darkness, which correlates to winter. That's what they mean, because the sun's not out. So it's one of the winter months. And I saw the place of the luminaries and the treasuries of the stars and of thunder and in the uttermost depths, where there was a fiery bow and arrow and their quiver. So the man with the bow and the arrow is Sagittarius, which is a winter month. So that passage is literally just encoded talking about Sagittarius. So you see how this works exactly like the Bible does too? It's the same thing.
That
It's
is
the
so
same
fucking
thing.
interesting, dude. That is so crazy.
It's the same thing. You could literally do it with any Bible, any text in the Bible. Any text in the Bible. You're talking about Jonah, who was in the whale, dead for 3 days. Just like the sun is dead for 3 days. Just like Jesus was dead for 3 days.
So in so I have Enoch 17 through 23 up on my screen right now and listening to you. So what are they basically trying to say right now in this talking about the different signs?
Well, the thing is that, oh, you mean like, what are they? They're just encoding the signs so that you know the signs are there.
Okay.
That's what it is. When you're talking about decoding the Book of Enoch, you can either read it, again, it's just like the Bible. You can either read it literally or you can read it as an encoded story. And if you read it as an encoded story, you'll find that the zodiac is the key to it. Okay, you use the zodiac and you use that and the constellations, and you can unlock any book of the Bible. Any text that was removed, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Gospel of Judas, the Gospel of... I could go on. You know, all of these go through the same thing. And that was my purpose in coming on today, is to show you that Enoch, which is such a popular, powerful book, and people interpret, who are the Watchers, who are this, who are that? It's a hidden astrology book all the same. That's the important information in there. That's what's being encoded.
Right. The Catholic Church don't want you to know that astrology had so much to do with it. So
Yeah, we went over this, right? I told you the
Yeah.
Catholic Catechism.
They've went out of their way to get rid of these books that tell you about anything that links to astrology. They just don't
Jenn,
want that to exist.
Jenn, what passage did you have up right now?
It's 17 through 23. So I have
Go to 18:13.
Okay, hold on. And a terrible thing I saw there, 7 stars like great burning mountains.
Okay. Do you know what the 7 stars are?
No.
Have you ever heard of the constellation the Pleiades?
Yes.
The 7 stars are called the 7 sisters. That's what that means. The 7 sisters are the 7 stars, the 7 brightest stars of the Pleiades.
Oh, dude, that's so trippy.
That's all it's talking about.
Let me ask you something. So there were 12 apostles.
Correct.
Do each represent a month, a zodiac sign?
A zodiac sign, not a month.
Well, yeah, a zodiac sign.
Well, I'll give you another example. I'm going to give you one more example, but I don't want to really go through all these right now. But you have
Okay.
Simon, right? You're familiar with Simon?
Yes.
Okay. What was his other name?
Paul.
No.
Saul. No. Peter.
Peter.
Yeah.
Why was his name Peter?
I don't know. Jesus changed it.
Do you know why?
I don't.
Do you know what the ruling planet of Pisces is, which is who he represents?
Mm-mm.
It's Jupiter, or Jew-Peter.
Peter. Good grief, man. See,
You just blew my fucking mind, dude.
See, I just put together the 12 zodiac signs with the 12 apostles. Like it just like a light bulb went off in my head. That's why I asked, because it just that's why I asked, because I knew if everything that you're saying is true, then this
We have
is
a loud
what.
background noise.
Uh-oh.
Erica?
Mute your mic.
I don't.
Okay. Is that better?
It's gone,
Yeah. It just blew my mind. Like it just dawned on me. Like something told me to ask you that, because now it makes sense.
Now you remember how there were twins in the or they were brothers, right? They were brothers in the who were the brothers of the zodiac?
Gemini, right?
Exactly. But they were brothers. There were two brothers in his disciples. Whenever they talk about twins or brothers, there's a passage in, I think it's John, I might be wrong about that, but where Jesus comes to town on twin donkeys. Well, how did he do that? Did he like jump from one to the other? They're talking about Gemini, the twins.
That is cool. Yeah, dude, that is so trippy, man. I love how you like so much relate. They correlate so well. It's almost disturbing to think that we've been fed like this whole story our whole lives, and it's all really just a story about the stars.
I mean, I can read you 21:3 again, and there I saw 7 stars of the heaven bound to it, like the great mountains with burning fire. Well, stars are balls of fire, and the 7 stars are the Pleiades, the 7 sisters. And in 46:1 he says, and there I saw one who had a head for days, and his head was white like wool. Well, wool is sheep, which is Aries, which is right. And with him was another being whose countenance had the appearance of a man. Okay, so they mention Aries right there, and then they mention the appearance of a man, which is the son of man, which is the sign of man, which is Aquarius. 48:1. I'm sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. I'll ask in a minute. I'm still
48
contemplating.
48:1. And in that place I saw the fountain of righteousness. Well, the fountain is the man with the water pitcher, pouring the water out. That's Aquarius. And all the thirsty drank of them, and they were filled with wisdom. And in that hour, the Son of Man was named. That's Aquarius, the Son of Man. It's all astrology. Any book that you pick from the Bible could be done this way. Any book that's not in the Bible that was related to the Bible could be done this way. That's all this is. It's all astrology.
So what is our purpose then?
To return to the stars.
Our purpose, and I don't have the ultimate answer, but our purpose is to know that these holy texts that have been passed down to us are nothing more than encoded Bible stories. I mean, encoded astrology stories. And it's important because you have to understand is that the Bible is basically sets people up to fail. People who are very religious live in a constant fear that they're not living up to God or Jesus. Okay, and they're worried about their place in heaven. When you realize this is just an astrology book, that goes away. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You don't have to live your life like that.
You know, because religion, as we've talked about before, to me, organized religion is just designed to control the population. I mean, it even goes as far as to say in the Bible that it's a sin to go against the government. You know, so I mean, it's fucking propaganda, man. It's like it's used to control the masses, and they know that by saying, "Oh, you're going to go to hell and burn in internal fire if you aren't this great person who goes to church every morning and gives them money," then you're gonna.
Well, they actually inverted that. They say it's a flaming inferno. That's the word they use, inferno, right? Because that's what hell is. Hell is supposedly hot.
Right.
Have you read the Divine Comedy?
I have not.
You've never read Dante Alighieri's The Divine Comedy?
I have them. I haven't read them.
So basically, in the lowest level of hell, you have Satan, and he's in a lake frozen up to his waist because his wings keep flapping so hard that it freezes over the lake and he can't move. Hell is actually winter. Hell is actually cold. Hell is on earth. Hell is winter. The word inferno in Latin is inverno, and inverno means winter. So they just flipped the meaning on that. They tried to say that hell is actually hot. It's not. Hell is actually cold. Hell has always been cold. Hell has always been the winter on earth.
That's my hell, is winter, because I hate cold.
Yeah.
I hate it. So what about the saying, as above, so below?
Well, that's basically talking about the stars and its reality on earth. As above, so below. As within, so without. As above, so below is talking about heaven on earth. Did I explain this to you real quick? That I told you that there's a star cluster in the constellation Cancer, or in the zodiac sign Cancer, called the Beehive cluster. Did I explain this to you?
I don't think so.
The Beehive
Yeah.
cluster.
Yes.
Oh, well, I
Yes,
don't
you
remember because my memory sucks. So,
The Beehive cluster is a group of stars in Cancer. Okay?
mhm.
And that's in Cancer. And the Milky Way galaxy, its center goes through Sagittarius. So the land from Cancer to Sagittarius, which is 5 signs, which is almost half the zodiac, is the land of milk and honey.
Oh yeah, I remember this now. Yes.
These are all just metaphors. That's all they are. I have a 6-book series out, right? And I've written stories that you follow the storyline, but I haven't encoded it. Like I've tried to encode it a little bit, but basically, the way these books are is you can follow the storyline, or you could read under it and arm yourself with the knowledge of the zodiac and the constellations, and then you'll be able to read them. And 51:4. And in those days shall the mountains leap like rams. Well, rams are Aries. And the hills shall also skip like lambs. Well, that's also Aries. Satisfied with milk. Well, that's the Milky Way galaxy. This is just a metaphor. That's all they are.
So when the Book of Enoch talks about the Watchers and the like Simjaza being cast down through the hole in the desert
Right.
to be bound, have his face covered with jagged rocks, and to stay there for 70 generations and until the day of judgment, and then he'll be cast into the inferno. What's this symbolism behind that?
Well, I haven't read that part yet, but I could tell you this much right now, based on what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the day of judgment is in Libra, as I've told you this. That's when Libra is. You have Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement. Okay, where
Right.
he will then be judged and sent into what?
The inferno.
Well, the Inverno, into winter. So Libra is in September, October. Okay, so he's going to be judged, and then he's going to follow the zodiac wheel down into winter, which is its natural progression. So that's what I would take from that.
And God also said that the Watchers, I'm looking at my notes, you shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and the earth shall be your dwelling.
I mean, a lot of it is just a storyline. You have to understand is that not every single line in every single story can be decoded. Some of it is just what we
Or
call
is
filler.
literal.
Some of it is
Yeah.
what we call filler. You understand? So it's just a storyline that made up. I'm more impressed that these people that wrote these books were able to encode astrology. I mean, you could literally read this story 2 separate ways. You could read it literally, or you could read it astrologically. You know, that
Right.
takes talent to be able to do that.
Yeah. I'm just struggling, man. I'm just struggling. Like, my mind is so blown but at the same time, like it's almost like being red pilled, but in a different way. Like I remember first learning about all this stuff and kind of unplugging from the matrix, and I just spent like weeks just bewildered at the indoctrination that we all went through. And I feel really bad for the people that are still stuck in that.
Right.
But I'm going through that right now because, you know, I teach Sunday school. Like I go to church, I read the Bible, and I'm struggling. Like,
Well, that's the first part. That I told you that when I first learned all this stuff, I lost my mind.
yeah.
I lost
And
my mind.
that's kind of like
Dude, I mean, it's tricky
where I am.
how you look at it. Like, no matter what anyone says, no matter, you know, I know that, you know, religious people who are very religious, like the Baptists especially, they take the Bible literal. I mean, shit, they take it literal. And it would blow people's mind who take the Bible so literal to realize that it's just a story.
Well,
It's
most
just
people
a
are
story
not.
about astrology.
Most people are not willing to look at that. Let me just pick a random passage, okay?
Okay.
Let's go with 60.7. And on that day were two monsters parted. A female monster named Leviathan, who was a fish god, by the way, to dwell in the abscess of the ocean over the fountains of water. Well, the two monsters, there's two fish, that's Pisces. And in the abscess of the ocean over the fountains of water is Aquarius, the man with the water pitcher. So they're just talking about the water signs there. I mean, I could do this for any passage. That's
so
basically what you okay, Jen?
Yeah, I'm okay.
She's over here.
Believe me, I understand that. I understand that where you guys come from, where you guys live, like the Bible is everything. Okay, and I was actually shocked that you guys. Well, I was shocked that you guys had me on to begin with, but I can respect what you're going through. But it's a very freeing feeling on the other end. I can promise you that.
Yeah. It'll be
I've
okay.
always felt like ever since I was a little kid and the first time I went to church, I was always like, dude, this has its this has its reasons. This is not about just about God. This has far more deep-seated betrayal, control than just being about God, because it was constantly just telling you had to be this, you know, you had to live this certain way and you had to act a certain way, and you could only get to the gates of heaven by accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And I just always felt like there was something there that just didn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, Jen, would it make you feel better to know that I actually believe in God?
Yeah, I mean, I understand even, okay, so the astrology part is, I think, fascinating and awesome, and I can wrap my head around that. It's the Jesus part now, and the God part, I do believe that there's a God, and I don't think anybody could convince me otherwise. It's the Jesus part that I'm having a hard time with.
Right.
Because we're taught that Jesus is salvation, and that Jesus is the light, and that Jesus is the good in our hearts. And so the thought that it's possible that none of that is real,
But why are we taught
scares
that,
me.
Jen?
It
Why are we
scares
taught
me.
that? Think about it like
That's
that.
what I was just gonna say myself. Yeah.
Why are we taught that? I mean, no one says you had to be taught that except for an organized religion. You see what I'm
Just like
But
I
saying?
said about how they tell you what the devil looks like. The devil doesn't have horns and a tail.
Jen, you even just said it. He's the light.
Yeah.
Jesus is the light of the world. That's the sun.
Yeah.
That's what the sun does. You literally just said it.
Yeah. Son of a bitch. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. I'm still struggling, but it makes sense. It does.
Look, anytime you want to bounce an idea off me privately, you can.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to.
Okay.
Okay. Look, I don't have all the answers, but I do have some.
Yeah.
Now, I can go in the Book of Enoch. We could talk about where they talk about not just the zodiac signs, but for example, 72:3. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and the 6 portals in which the sun sets. The sun sits in each sign during the day for 2 hours a day, right? There's 12 zodiac signs. So every day the sun is in each sign for 2. That makes 24. So in 72:14, he says, on the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. They're literally talking about the summer solstice. It's the longest day of the year. That's an 18-hour day, 6-hour night. That's just literally what they're talking. 72:20. On the day is equalized with the night and becomes equal length of the day. That's the equinoxes. They're 12-hour day, 12-hour night. That's all they're talking about. And on the day the night becomes longer and amounts to double the day, that's the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. That's December 21st. This is the calendar that you have to know. You have to understand this so that if you go back to civilization and you live off the grid, this is what you'll need to know.
That's so insane, man. Wow. You can just put them together. They fall right into place. It's almost like jogging in a way, you know. It's you see how they talk about it, and I wonder though, is there a reason like back then that they decided to write this and write it like, you see what I'm saying? Like what made them come up with these stories of the stars?
Because they wanted to. What happened was everybody understood this. Understand this. Original Christians before 325, the Council of Nicaea. You've heard of that, right? 325, the Council of Nicaea. Constantine united everybody, the Roman and everybody under Christianity. Before 325, Christians were known as Helio-Gnostics. Okay? And Helio-Gnostics literally means sun worship. That's what the original Christians were. The original Christians were reading this Bible not as literally, but as metaphorically.
Huh.
So, okay. So let me see if I get this straight. So you can read the Bible and the books that aren't in the Bible, like the Book of Enoch, literally, or you can read them as possibly how they were meant to be read, which is to teach you about astrology and the constellations. So has what the intent of writing the books, do you think, was it to teach about constellations and it just got perverted over the years by people in power?
Because originally the original Christians were known as Helio-Gnostics. They were sun worshippers.
So it got perverted over the years. So these stories...
it didn't get perverted. It didn't get perverted. Okay? How you're taught Christianity these days is how Christianity was taught after 325 AD, after Constantine united everyone under a literal Christianity. Constantine had a nephew named Julian the Apostate, and you could still get his books to this day on Amazon. He tried to bring everyone back to sun worship, and he got an arrow shot in his back for it. Basically, how they teach Christianity now was a change in 325 AD. Okay, before then, everybody was understanding this, and it was changed, and there were the Crusades, and everybody was pillaged, and all this stuff in order to change this. But it was never meant to be taken literally.
Gotcha. Okay. And that makes sense to me. So
much a bunch of people got a hold of these books of writing, and they read it, and they all like put their own like real life into it, like Jesus Christ and all this stuff. and they all mixed it together and kind of made it their own story. And
well, it's beyond that.
their
It's
religion.
beyond that. It's beyond that. For example, the Ten Commandments. Did I explain to you Moses going on the top of and getting the 10 Commandments and what he saw them worshiping?
I don't remember you explaining that to me.
I don't remember that. That's really interesting. Yes, let's talk about that.
Moses is, first of all, Moses was an Egyptian, right?
Yes.
Yes. Now, the Egyptians were the people of Taurus. If you look at and the age of Taurus, as we're in the age of Aquarius now, the Egyptians were the people of Taurus, okay? And you can look at hieroglyphs on the walls, and you'll see a ton of hieroglyphs that have like bulls with their horns and the sun between their head. They're obviously telling you that they worship the sun in Taurus, okay? Moses climbs the mountain to get the 10 Commandments. And he comes down and he sees them worshiping something. Do you remember what it was?
A golden calf.
All right. Now, Jen, let me ask you this question. What makes more sense to you? Okay? As difficult as it is, what makes more sense to you? That there's wandering Jews in the desert for 40 years with a ton of gold. They find welding equipment in the desert, right near a mountain, and they build a giant golden calf. Or the calf represents Taurus. The calf is the bull, and the sun is the golden part. So it's the golden bull, the golden calf, the sun in Taurus. They're the people of Aries, the Jews are, and they were worshiping the wrong time period. That's why Moses got mad. So he slammed the 10 Commandments down on the ground, and that's where we get the phrase the lawbreaker comes from, because he was the first person to break the law. And yeah, so which one makes more sense?
Yeah.
See, and I pride myself on having good discernment, and I just feel like a complete idiot now. That's why I was laughing. They had welding equipment, like
this big gold cat.
oh my gosh.
It's good to see you laugh, though.
Yeah.
No more crying.
That makes total sense. Like that, it's so beyond ridiculous. Like, and it neat, like pointing that out. It's so ridiculous. Like it just is. It's so ridiculous. All I can do is laugh. I really needed that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh, mercy.
All right. What's our time check, Jen?
51.
Okay, we still got a little bit of time. So,
Yeah.
Micah, let's see. On the Book of Enoch, it's in the first couple of chapters. He actually talks about astrology, and he talks about magic. And I wish I would have bookmarked it. Damn it. Shit.
Hold on, I can get there.
Very, very interesting. And
was it before the fallen angels or after the fallen angels?
Oh Lord, I have no idea.
Okay, so because he talks about the fallen angels, then the watchers, and then the ends of the earth, the first parables. I was still on the watchers when I ended, because I have to listen to it, Micah. I can't read it because
that's fine.
I'm a visual learner anyway, so that's why I do audiobooks, because I can absorb it better. But so I listen to it on YouTube. It's much easier for me. And I got like 20 minutes in. I don't even know. I ended where Enoch was telling about the crystal house and the house of flames and all that stuff.
Right, which is, I think we went over that, right?
Right. So I'm trying to figure out where Dusty is. Yeah, I don't know.
Hell, I don't know where it was at. But I just found it interesting that he talked about it like that.
So let's see. If I can go back. So it lists the books like this.
Oh,
so it has...
where they talk about the angels having the angels having sex with the women and them creating giants and
Okay, that's the first part. Yeah, they talk
Yeah,
about.
that's a metaphor. Let me give you this. Let me throw this at you. Have you ever
Okay.
seen somebody who's like, I mean, not face to face, but have you ever seen like one of these like super giants, like 7'7", 7'8"?
Yeah, I've seen them on
Yeah.
TV. I know
Yeah. Have you see how they walk with like a cane, right? Because their femurs literally cannot support their upper body.
Right.
These beings were supposed to be 2-3 times that. Do you think a woman could have a natural childbirth with one of these things?
No,
No.
but they find huge skulls.
They did, and they keep getting rid of them because they don't fit into the timeline.
Well, and they found them. I heard that they found them in Vietnam, and that's part of the reason why we went to war, was to get those skulls to excavate. And do you remember that, Dusty? I don't know who we were talking to about that.
Man, dude, I don't remember, but yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, but I have heard where they find the skull and then they're like it disappears, or they'll say it's fake or whatever. So they don't want it. There's something about that timeline they want to omit. They want to omit a lot. They've omitted
because it doesn't fit in with the biblical narrative. The
Yeah.
biblical narrative is that the world is 5,000-6,000 years old,
right.
which it's not. In fact, remember how we were just talking about the 10 Commandments?
Mm-hmm.
Do this on your free time. Look up the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Okay.
I'll wait. Egyptian Book of the Dead, chapter 125.
Okay.
12 negative confessions. That's where the 10 Commandments come from.
No shit. Go figure.
Okay. Okay, I wrote it down. I will look at that. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff down. So, I'll add
All
that.
right, man. Well, guys, Micah, it was awesome having you on again to talk more astrology in the Bible.
I just don't want to make Jen cry. I don't know if I should come on again.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's totally fine. It's okay. I'm good. I have a lot to think about. I have a lot
She
to
gets emotional.
figure out. But this is good, because even if the information is hard, the way that I look at it, I want to know. No matter how hard it is to process, I want to know, because knowledge is power, and I don't want to be stuck believing something if it's not the truth. The truth to me matters more than what I'm what I've grew up with, what I've been indoctrinated in, and sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow.
Have you been keeping up with my videos in the group?
No, I just joined the group, so I haven't seen any. But I plan on going back and watching and learning as much as I can.
Send me a Facebook message when we get off.
Okay.
I'll send you my best of work.
Awesome. Yay.
Because I've done maybe 100 podcasts since June, but I've narrowed it down to like 10 that are just really legit, and I think this one's gonna make it too.
Okay. Awesome. Yay. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming on. And I mean, like Dusty and Eric have said, I would love to have you come on again, because the more information, I mean, at least for me personally, and I know there's going to be a ton of people out there that are going to be just as mind blown as we are, because it's great
if
information.
You want, I have a group on Facebook called Into the Rabbit Hole. All your fans can join them. You could friend me.
Oh,
you could
yeah,
follow
I'm on
me.
there.
You could follow me on, yes, you are. You could follow me on Twitter at real Mr. Dank, or just look up my name, Micah Dank. I talk to every single person that friends or joins. I talk to every single person.
Okay.
So you have questions, that's fine. If you want to get the books. Now, Jen, remember this, is that I wrote a fiction series, because you can get away with saying a lot more in a fiction series than you can in a nonfiction series. So you're going to be entertained, and you're going to learn so much. I'm going to blow your mind.
Okay. I look forward to it. I'm very excited.
That is cool. Yeah, I look forward to it too. I think I'm gonna get one of them, so I need to start reading again.
Reach out to me.
Micah, he just said where you can find him. Ladies, you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
I'm on
So, Jenn?
Facebook, Jenn Thomas. That's it, because I'm banned everywhere else. And you can follow me. You don't have to friend me. You can follow me.
She's the rebel Jenn Thomas. She's banned from everything. She's the Alex Jones. Female Alex Jones.
You know, I want to share one more thing with you, Jenn.
Yes.
They went to a town in Israel called Megiddo, okay? And it's in Israel, and there's a church there. And what they did was they found a church literally under. It had been buried for thousands of years, okay? They dug it up. It's from the 3rd century AD. It's one of the oldest churches they've ever founded.
Wow.
And right in the middle of the floor was a giant mosaic of the 2 fish Pisces.
Wow.
That's insane.
That's crazy. I'm going to look that up.
That is so cool, dude. Oh, man. I hate to wrap up such a good show, but guys, Erica, where can they find you?
Truthcast on Twitter and Erica Adcock on Facebook.
All right, guys, you can find me at YouTruthcast or the Dusty Carroll Show. I'm going to start making little 15-minute rants, so tune in for that. Guys, stay woke, and remember, as always, fuck Spotify.
Woot woot.